next cell organelle is chloroplast. Now, when you take mitochondria, you will find mitochondria both in plant and animal cell. Remember this point. Both plant and animal cell will have mitochondria. Whereas this cell organelle, the chloroplast, you will find only in plant cell. So these are the sites where actual photosynthesis happens in the plant. So obviously you can say chloroplast are the structures which you'll find in green part of the plant. For example, leaves, the green twigs, the green branches, even the green trunk also carries the chloroplast. Okay. I think in your lower classes you would have learned that chloroplast is present in green. Only that statements you would have read. But that is a totally wrong statement. You will find chloroplast even in green stem and even in green branches and green trunks also. So wherever the green color pigment is present, you can expect chloroplast and the photosynthesis process also. So how the structure of chloroplast is enhancing it to involving photosynthesis, that is our point of interest over here. When you take the chloroplast, in the earlier cell organelle, mitochondria, as we said, there are outer membrane and inner membrane. The same way, even the chloroplast also possesses double membrane, like the plasma membrane. So when a question is asked, plasma membrane-like structure is present inside the cell or not, justify your question or answer. How you can write the answer? Yes, membrane-like double membrane structure is present inside the cell also. Where you will find such double membrane? In mitochondria and in chloroplast. Okay, so these are the two cell organelles which possess double membrane. Now when you take the chloroplast structure, you'll have terminology like thylakoid, grana and stroma. There will be always a confusion of some points over here in differentiating grana and stroma, thylakoid and grana, all those things. If we study the concept in an elaborative way, connecting the structure to function, it will be much easier to eliminate such kind of doubts. Okay, so I'll try to explain the chloroplast structure by connecting it to functional aspect. So when we take the chloroplast structure, now I'm going to show another slide which clearly explains about chloroplast structure related to the function. So here see, you're having an outer membrane. We are having an outer membrane and inner membrane around the chloroplast structure. Now when you take the inner membrane, so just shading on the slide, when you take the inner membrane shows some foldings, some coin-like foldings like this. See? So in drawing beside the diagram, see? The inner membrane is showing coin-like structures. So such single coin-like structure inside the chloroplast is called thylakoid, singular. When we have such coin-like structures stacked one above the other, like this. So these are all thylakoids, isn't it? So stack of thylakoids we call as granum, singular again. Now I'm drawing the same structure like this. Thylakoids. This is granum. The same kind of granum is there beside. So what we call this as grana, plural. Now such grana are joined by lamella. What is this lamella called? Stroma lamella. So what I'm trying to explain is, don't get confused with thylakoid, thylakoids, granum, grana, stroma. So when you take the chloroplast structure, you will have a coin-like structures of the inner membrane, which is called thylakoid, singular. Such numerous thylakoids will form granum. This is also singular. Now such numerous granum, this is one set of granum and this is second set of granum. So that makes the grana. Grana is plural. Okay. Now grana are joined together by lamella. Such lamella are called stroma lamella. Now what is stroma? Stroma is nothing but fluid matter inside the chloroplast. So see, I'm shading on the diagram. Each one is a thylakoid. Got it? Now, thylakoids, when they are kept one above the other like a stack, pile of stack, like this. I'm putting a red color marking on the diagram. Observe it carefully. So this whole thylakoid stack group we call as granum. Granum is a singular. If you have so many grana, that's a plural. Now how grana are joined? See, this is one granum and this is another granum. How they're joined? They're joined through a lamella. Lamella is nothing but a tubular structure. What lamella? Stroma lamella. What is stroma? Stroma is nothing but the fluid matter inside the chloroplast. Like the matrix. What is matrix? Just now mentioned. Matrix is the fluid matter present in mitochondria. Isn't it? Likewise, stroma is the fluid matter present in the chloroplast. Clear is nothing but the cavity. Isn't it? The cavity inside the grana or the cavity inside the chloroplast. Whatever the cavity, we call it as lumen. Okay. Intermembrane space is nothing but the space between outer membrane of the chloroplast and inner membrane of the chloroplast. That's the intermembrane space. So about the terms stroma, grana, granum, thylakoids. That's all clear? Okay, fine. So when you take the structural aspect, these are the different parts of chloroplast structure. Now, when you take the functional aspect of chloroplast, chloroplast is a site where you will have photosynthesis. So, generally, what does mean by photosynthesis? So far, you would have read photosynthesis is nothing but taking in carbon dioxide in the presence of light and giving out oxygen and producing sucrose and starch, which is the food material for plant. That's all you would have learned till now, isn't it? Now, you're going to learn something different and in-depth regarding the photosynthesis process over here. So when you take the photosynthesis process, the whole photosynthesis happens in the chloroplast. This structure, the oval-like structure, assume it as chloroplast. And according to the structural aspect, they'll have thylakoids, isn't it? Just now we discussed. And the thylakoids are joined together by grana and stroma lamellae. What happens inside the thylakoid? And what happens inside the chloroplast structure so that it takes in carbon dioxide and gives out oxygen only in the presence of sunlight. So the whole system depends on some pigments. We call those pigments as photosystem. Photosystem. So the photosystems are nothing but pigment molecules. We designate them as photosystem 1 and photosystem 2, Roman numbers, which will capture the light from the sunlight, isn't it? And water from outside environment and help in conversion of carbon dioxide taken in to produce glucose or starch or sucrose as food material. The whole process we call as Calvin cycle. Calvin cycle is a part of photosynthesis. So when you club all these things together, that forms the whole photosynthesis process. Okay, let me share another slide which clearly explains. The picture in the slide is how the energy from sun is trapped by the chloroplast and how it is converted to food material. Assume that sunlight energy is taken by the thylakoids. The stack-like structures you assume as thylakoids and grana. Okay, just now we have seen in the structure of chloroplast. This whole structure is nothing but a chloroplast. Okay. Now within the chloroplast, what's happening? That I'm going to end. So this whole process is nothing but photosynthesis. So what happens in photosynthesis? Carbon dioxide will be taken from the outside environment along with the molecule in the presence of sunlight, isn't it? So what will take in the carbon dioxide? The carbon dioxide will be taken in by an enzyme called Rubisco. Did you remember Rubisco we discussed in other class? RUBP is a substrate. Fine, you remembered the word, that's good. So RUBP is the enzyme, ribulose bisphosphate, isn't it? Ribulose bisphosphate is the substrate and Rubisco is an enzyme. Ribulose bisphosphate carboxylase oxygenase. Based on the presence of carbon dioxide, it will go for photosynthesis. Based on the presence of oxygen, it will go for photoration. That's what we discussed in another class, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. That's RUBP is a substrate, but RUBSO is the enzyme name. So here this enzyme will trap the carbon dioxide. There's a point you have to understand here in photosynthesis, especially Calvin cycle. Calvin is a scientist's name. So what he introduced is there is an acceptor of carbon dioxide. The acceptor is the enzyme Rubisco, which will act upon substrate RUBP, and there will be chain of reactions, and end product is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is the product during the Calvin cycle. Now, this glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate during production, it will release ADP, adenosine diphosphate, which will later get converted to ATP. So ATP is nothing but the energy currency, isn't it? So in a plant cell, energy will be released during photosynthesis process. So far in lower classes, what you learned, photosynthesis is a process where carbon dioxide is used, sunlight is used to produce food to the plant, autotrophs. Not only food, but they'll release energy also, is the next level. So how energy is released during photosynthesis? After Calvin cycle, photosystem 1, photosystem 2, along with electron transport chain, they will show various reactions where ATP will be produced. And this ATP will be used as the energy by the plant. You got me? Are you there, Bhumika? So here what I'm explaining is during photosynthesis process, not only food is produced, but energy is also released. How energy is released? Based on the trapping of the sunlight and various reactions happening through different pigments present in the chloroplast. What are the pigments? Photosystem 1, photosystem 2. Along with these two pigments, the trapped carbon dioxide will follow certain steps and an end product is produced, which is glucose. That's what the photosynthesis process happens. So during production of glucose, there is release of energy also. So photosynthesis is not only the food maker but also energy releaser. So how that happens? Through various steps. The steps we call as light dependent reactions. Where they occur in thylakoid. So this is the whole concept behind photosynthesis process, which occurs in chloroplast in plant cell only. NADPH. Yeah. NADPH is another form of energy. Like for ADP, ATP, we are saying energy currency, In the same way, you will have another kind of an energy currency called NADPH, NADP plus. So NADPH. It's like when I'm using the word energy currency. So currency, if you take, you will be having various kinds of denomination notes, isn't it? You will have 2000 denomination note, 500 denomination note, isn't it? The same way, when you take the energy of a cell, you'll have ATP, you'll have NADPH like this. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate and NADPH stands for nicotinamide adenosine diphosphohydrogenase. In some books, they'll give just hydrogen, diphosphohydrogen. This is the abbreviated form of NADP, nicotinamide adenosine diphosphohydrogen, or hydrogenase. In some books, they'll give. Okay, you got the difference, ATP, NADPH, why they are using two different terminologies. It's nothing but two different forms of energy the cell will have. So during photosynthesis, ATP will be released and even NADPH is also released. That's why compared with the normal currency denominations like the 2000 note, 500 note, likewise we are having different denominations in currency, money. The same way, this energy currency inside the cell also has different denominating words like ATP and NADPH. Clear?